it's our first property pickle. John, I'm quite excited about this idea of a property pickle. Are you?
So am I, and I'm really excited about it because it's all about sharing knowledge, helping people, and at the end of the day, all of us. I don't care who you are, how long you've been doing it or not. You've probably had a property pickle that needs sorting out, and property is all about. It's like a jigsaw. Even when things aren't going wrong, it's still a jigsaw to piece it all together, and it's all about. Solving puzzles, really, isn't it?
It is, and the best laid plans. Everyone thinks, right, you've got a plan there. They know
Yeah,
exactly what they're doing, but
yeah.
then nothing ever goes to plan. Does
So
it?
much can go wrong, and I don't want to sound depressing. We don't want to make it a depressing show, do we, Michelle? Because at the end of the day, there's some wonderful stories of people who've been hugely successful in property, and all the rest of it. But you've just got to be careful. And I always say this: you need an out before you have an in. You need to know what to do if your first idea doesn't work. Well, how can you get out of the deal, or how can you change it? And property is about de-risking, as it is much about doing the deal, in my view.
Yeah, and it's not always straightforward, and that's fine. That's how we make our money, right? So
Exactly. Yeah.
I think just by going into any investing with the knowledge that things are going to go wrong, and that doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad. It just means something happens, it doesn't go to plan, and you need that resilience. You need to be able to figure out how you're going to get yourself out of that, find a solution, and it's going to be a lot of pivoting along the way. Just something good you need to.
If it's any help to anyone, any comfort to anyone, we've all been in a pickle at some point or another.
Well, absolutely, and that's what this is all about. Is just
absolutely. We're all in the same boat. There may be an extra naught or two at the end, unfortunately, sometimes, but we're all in the same pickle. And I know some hugely successful property people who have been in a similar pickle to everyone listening, I'm sure. And if they haven't been in a pickle, congratulations.
Yeah,
it's likely to happen at some
enough.
point. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, let's dive into our first pickle. And the aim of this is just to look through different scenarios, really common ones. We're going to have lots of stories as well. And let's dive into the first one.
And what I would say, we're not here to embarrass anyone or anything like that. This is all positive. Whatever we say is really to be supportive and positive, not negative.
Absolutely. And inspire people, right? So whether
absolutely,
you're in a pickle.
Yeah. They're all in the same boat.
Yeah. If you're in a pickle, don't worry. You can get out of it with the right support, the right contacts, and just knowing that it's possible. We're here to help, right? So first of all, let's dive in to our first pickle. So you've teamed up with a mate to flip your first house. Until that mate disappears halfway through and the builders stop turning up. What do you do now? So, common scenario for people at the early stages, and they are, working with friends on deals, and they haven't really got any agreements as such.
Yeah. Well, that's the first thing, isn't it, Michelle? First thing comes to my mind. With these agreements, I always say, get the agreement done. Because it's professional, and the other thing is, if you have to look at the agreement, you're in trouble. It goes into the top drawer or bottom drawer. If you have to get it out, you've got a problem. So in a way, whatever that agreement says, you've got to find a solution to that agreement. And I'm helping someone at the moment who's come to me with a similar problem, with a few noughts on the end probably, but they've got a backer who put the money in, now wants to get super involved with everything. And not in a good way, and they want to raise money to get rid of the backer, and start again. And that's probably quite a sensible thing to do. So, in a scenario like this, depending if it's one home, hopefully the reason you got the backer presumably is because you haven't got the money to do it all yourself. So it's a case of talking to that backer or joint venture partner. Try not to fall out. Try to find some common ground in some shape or form. It's cheaper to be able to carry on with them, even if they've done a runner. They've got their money in, presumably. So that's something at least, isn't it? If they've got to put more money in, they can't. Then obviously you need to try and change the rules of the game. And no doubt if it's a JV, it might be 50-50. You might want to try and do what, 65-35 or something. But changing horses halfway through, it's like changing a builder halfway through, can be very expensive. And if you can try and patch up the relationship and get that one finished and go your separate ways, I would always try and do that rather than have a full argument, go to court and have all that nonsense. What do you think, Michelle?
Yeah, absolutely. It's sometimes you've got to meet them where they're at.
Mm.
And that might be a dark place. It might be, a place that you don't want to go because it's embarrassing, it's awkward. But you've got to have like real conversations with people, and there's no point in getting all wound up. Best to just deal with things as soon as they happen. Reach out, be as reasonable as possible, because you've got to remember like the outcome that you want. The outcome you want is you just want to get this deal over the line, get out of it, and move on, right? And then you can deal with the emotions after it. But you have to put the logistics.
You have to put emotions to one side and ego to one side. If everyone's got a bit of an ego, you've got to put that to one side as well. The other thing I would say is you need to contact the builder and see how you can get them back on site, because getting the build, while it's sat there half finished, is your worst scenario, because if you have an argument before you actually start the build work, then your interest payment is at its lowest point. The more work you do, and if you're borrowing the money off a bridge or whatever, and then have to stop 3/4 way through because there's a big argument, that interest really ticks up because you're borrowing a lot more money. So, try and nip it in the bud as soon as possible. And if you've got to eat some humble pie, or I always say to get a deal done, I live in Suffolk, rural Suffolk. If I have to walk to London to get a deal done or get a problem solved, I would do so. Simple as that. Do whatever you've got to do to try and get it solved. If you can't get it solved, what do you do, Michelle? Because that's the other question we're going to be asked, aren't we?
And in this particular scenario, where the first investors put more than their share in, now they're facing the project alone. But the problem is that the title, the mortgage, the costs are all in joint names. So how do they deal with that?
Well, I think it's very difficult. I mean, obviously, the ideal thing, well, not ideal, but one of the ways is to find another investor to replace the one you've got. And maybe, it might be that the current investor will take what we call a haircut. Do you know what a haircut is? You know what a haircut is, Michelle. That's, they're owed 150 grand on it. They might take 120 to get out now. And it might be the best deal they can do because there may not be any profit in it. So I'm not saying they will do that, but certainly you need to try. If you really can't work with the person and they're the ones putting the money in, then you need to find a replacement pretty quick. And sometimes, Michelle, you can help that situation. I'm sure sometimes I can help. I've got a number of high net worth people I work with that now and again put money in the odd deal. So it's possible, depending what they want and how much the deal is. But it is very, very difficult. Ultimately, of course, the ultimate thing to do is put it on the market, sell it as it is. And if it's part finished or whatever, bang it in an auction, take your chance, I would thought,
it's all about options.
And that's
right?
the final threat, really, isn't it, Michelle, in a way to the person. Yeah.
It's all about having options and having as many exits as possible. And sometimes, just for your own sanity and the stress of the situation, it might just be worth getting rid of it, cutting your losses and then moving on to the next thing. So let's recap a couple of different options then. So
absolutely.
Refinancing, potentially buying the partner out, bringing another investor in.
That's the most obvious one, isn't it? Probably.
Definitely. And, when you're going to the next partner, you be upfront and say, listen, this didn't work out.
This is what's happened. And Michelle, part of that is defining the rules of the game, really, because I've had backers I've had for 35, 40 years, but they all know their rules. The rules are, I get out there with those ones, I get out and find the deals, I do the deals, they supply the funds. They deal with the bank. They don't interfere on a day-to-day basis. And I've obviously others that I do the whole thing. I do a lot myself as well. So that's slightly different. But obviously, you need to define the rules before you start. There's no point having a partner identical to you. You need a partner that is different to you. It might be that they're good on the financial side and you're good on hands-on, or whatever it might be. There's no point having two people doing the identical thing, because if you're both doing the dishes and washing up and drying, then you're going to fall out. You need to be doing different things. Very important, that is.
Absolutely. So essentially, we can just sum it up by damage limitation right now.
Absolutely.
And the big win is just learning to protect yourself next time and do things differently next time.
I think so. And remember, the longer it goes on, the more it's costing you. So you might go, well, I'm not taking that, I'm not doing that. Well, 3 months' time, if the situation's the same, the money that, you've spent all that extra money on interest, so you might as well have done the deal in the first place. So don't be proud. If it's a problem, get out of it and go again, if you can, one way or the other.
Okay. And some golden nuggets for people to take away with them to stop people getting themselves into that pickle.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about JV agreements, and the problem of the handshake agreement is that it's never.
It is literally a handshake. I mean, what I would say, and you get people who have worked together for 30 odd years and never had a problem. So, any partner has to appreciate that you are going to lose money from time to time in property. It's going to happen. And it's how people react to that and deal with that. It's sorts out a good partner from a bad partner, probably. But what I would certainly do is spell it out early on. I don't think you need a 30-page agreement, but you certainly need a 2 or 3 page agreement. Now, a 2 or 3 page agreement will not be watertight legally. It won't be watertight, but it is the principle that you're really trying to do, and the fact that you've both signed it is a commitment that, in principle, this is what we'll, if it goes wrong, this is what we'll do. And there's a clause called the chicken clause, Michelle. Do you know what that is?
I've never heard of a chicken clause.
Right. Well, the chicken clause is this. It says that, say you want to buy the person out, of the deal. So you offer them a certain amount of money to buy them out, and if they don't want to, you have to accept the same amount so they buy you out. It's a very, very fair clause, and in many agreements, and if you're having a lawyer do the agreement, just mention the chicken clause to them, because they'll know what that means, and on the whole should do, and it can save a lot of argument. Yeah.
Okay. Well, as we said, handshakes are great, but it doesn't replace due diligence. It doesn't replace that contract. So if it's not in writing, guys, it is not agreed.
And also just check out, sorry to butt in, Michelle, but just check them out online. These people, what's their credit like? What's their this, you can check people out so well now. The other month, 28 people checked out my net worth online the other month. I mean, they're nosy buggers, aren't they? What's that? Why would you bother doing that? But anyway, there you go. So just, do your due diligence, like you said, Michelle. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Yeah. Well, you can lose a friend or lose your money, but make sure it's not both.
Make sure it's not the money, in my view.
Exactly. Exactly. Any other stories on that one with JV agreements and
Michelle, over the last few years since I've been doing some consultancy and stuff, I've had a guy who's had 2.5 million out with someone and wants it back, can't get it back, and we've probably got about 1.6, 1.7 back, working with the lawyers and myself and so on. We've had other people with much more modest sums, but of course, the amount of money people have is relevant. It's relative, I should say. So the person that's can't get 100 grand back, in some cases, that's more important to them than someone who's got £1 million out with someone. So it's really important that you don't get yourself in that situation in the first place. Really important, and it does happen. And if it happens, don't beat yourself up about it. And you hear it quite a lot in the property world at the moment, unfortunately. But if it happens and you fall out, sort it out is the answer. Sort it out and nip it in the bud immediately. Don't let it linger and this, that and the other. Deal with it there and then. Don't put your head in the sand.
And would you say for people who are mid-project and everything's going okay, but they suddenly kind of realise they're listening to this and they're thinking, yeah, I don't have an agreement. Do you think, should they just go and, speak to the other partner and say, listen, we didn't do this right at the beginning. I'd like to put an agreement in place halfway through.
Hang on a second. I can see my stables from here. Has a horse bolted? Let me just look. No, they haven't, touched wood. It's happened before. The stable door's been left open and the horse has gone off somewhere. The answer is I can't see you can do that, Michelle, because I think you're putting the alarm signals out. You don't trust them. You don't want to work with them anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's too late. I think you do need to, if you're in that situation, you just need to nurse the deal through to the end. If there's not a problem, at the end of the day, I wouldn't panic if it's not broken, doesn't need fixing, just don't do it next time. Or if you do it next time, make sure you have an agreement.
Okay. And talk to us about agreements, because people are, a bit funny about agreements and they just might do a heads of terms and think that that's enough. But what can people expect to pay for a substantial agreement? Nothing to, just enough.
Well, unless it's 30 odd pages, it's probably not worth the paper it's written on. Wow. Really, that's the truth, because there'll be a good barrister, a good lawyer that can unravel it. So it is a gesture. It's like this signing these documents so you can get someone to send you a deal. Just be careful signing. It might say you've got to pay 2% fee on receiving it or something, some nonsense. So be very careful with those. I'm not saying don't sign it, but just read it carefully first. I would say, like I said earlier, it's more of a gesture of goodwill that you're both signing it. And they're the broad rules, but of course, most good lawyers will drive a coach, a horse and coach through it, or whatever it is, if they really want to. But that's expensive. Start getting into lawyers, you've got a big problem anyway. So I would say have a relatively simple agreement. Hopefully, it's watertight enough. I'm sure AI now will be printing these off rather than lawyers, which I'm not sure is a good idea, but. I think it's a gesture. It's the gesture of good faith more than anything else that you're both prepared to sign it. If someone's not prepared to sign it, then it should ring alarm bells, shouldn't it? Really, it should ring alarm bells.
So for people who are starting out, let's say they've just got a simple flip project they're doing with the JV.
Yes,
they can go to a reputable solicitor.
Absolutely, a joint venture agreement, £1,000. I'm guessing. Would you?
Yeah.
Do you think? About that, about £1,000, and like you said, it's watertightish, I'm sure, but
and hopefully you'll never need to use it. But just very much like insurance, you're paying for peace of mind.
Yeah, put it in the bottom drawer. Hopefully you'll never have to get it out. If you've got to get it out, you've got a problem.
Great. Okay, well, that is our first property pickle. And if you have found yourself in a property pickle, ideally one that you've got yourself out of, or now that you can laugh about looking back, or certainly you've got a considerable learning from, even if it's not earning, then do send us in at the Key Club. You can find it in the show notes. Contact us in social media, and we will share your pickle. Okay, next time we're going to be talking about investors who grew too fast and the nightmare tax that followed. So stay tuned and see you next time.
See you next time.